Supreme Court judgment regarding the right to property, that is the land acquisition and all. How the government should actually begin when the government has to acquire land. So does the common citizen have the right to property? What ultimate right does the citizen have? What level of right does the citizen have in dealing with its own private property? So that was the judgment which recently Supreme Court delivered. So what actually happened was that you have the use article here. So what is the use here? It actually says that state cannot acquire property without proper procedure. That is the Supreme Court said in this particular judgment. So the Supreme Court definitely reiterated that this particular on this private property and land and acquisition and all. Supreme Court said that this right to property is actually constitutional right. So it is actually constitutional right. So we are actually going to delve deep into the particular topic. So what is this right to property? Is this a fundamental right? What are the differences? What are the amendments happened to this particular section and all things? So starting with the topic, it is one of the important main perspective topics which actually happen. And along with that, when you study the main things, the pros and cons and all of views regarding that, you have to also keep in mind that this can be very much important for the prelims also, because we have to mention a lot of different amendments, the different articles and all the things. So when starting with the land acquisition, we said that Supreme Court said that all the land acquisition should pass the test of Article 300. So we have to understand, we have to know what Article 300 is. What is this Article 300 is? So whenever whenever the government actually takes, for example, government wants to construct a bridge, maybe a road, maybe or railway track, or some other huge hospital building in a garden or a park, anything like that. Whenever the government actually acquires a space, a private space from a private person, the government should actually test if the acquisition is constitutionally valid, under which actually under the Article 300. So what is actually 300? That no person shall be deprived of his property save by the authority of law, which means that the government can take the property of a person. If there is a law, if there is a proper law, the government can actually take them. So it has two notations actually, two ways we can do this particular article. One way, no person should be deprived of the property unless there is a proper law. So if a citizen, a person, a private person has a level of protection, that is one particular point of view. That is from the point of view of the person. From the point of view of the state, actually, from the point of view of government, we can say that if there is a proper law, then the government can actually take this particular land away from the person. So from the two perspectives, also this particular statement, this particular article is actually extremely valid. So recently, one of the things actually was in the Kolkata Municipal Corporation, they were actually trying to acquire a private land from the people actually for a public cause. So trying to get a land from the private person for a public purpose. That is, they were trying to construct a garden, this park, public park and all. So that is the background story in which Supreme Court actually recently delivered this particular verdict that there should be proper deliberation and test should be properly done. So going into the topic, we have to say that. So what is the right to property in India? What is the status of the right to property? So we have to understand it can be divided into two. That is, one thing is before the 44th Amendment, and the one thing is actually after the 44th Amendment. So the 44th Amendment happened in 1978. So what was the status before the 1978? The right to status of right to property before 1978. So you can see that there were actually two important articles which are actually mentioned in the actually part of the fundamental rights. Which part is actually the fundamental right coming? It's actually coming in part 3. So under part 3, fundamental rights, there were actually two important articles regarding the relating with the right to property. So what is the number one? It is actually Article 19(1)(f). So regarding the Article 19 right, it is the fundamental right to acquire, hold, and dispose of the property. So if I am a person, if I have a particular piece of land, for example, one cent or 1 acre of land, I have the right to acquire that land after giving money to a person. I can own the land at my own will, and if I don't want that land, I can just sell off the land also at my own. I don't have to ask anybody. It is my property. So that is actually Article 19(1) now. So what is actually Article 31? Article 31 says that no person shall be deprived of his property, same way authority of law, just like the 300 statement which is mentioned, right? So this exact statement, this exact article, Article 31, was actually shifted to 300. So we read about 300. That 300, the article, the statement actually came from Article 31 after the amendment. So before the amendment, this particular statement was in the Article 31. So which means that if there is a value law, the government can, the state can actually acquire this particular property. So that is the concept. So what is this? What is the problem with this particular two articles? That is the main important context. So it is actually in conflict with the state's function. So if the state is actually has an intention, if the state wants to construct or want to do some developmental activities like dam construction, anything like that, which is actually affecting the private person's land. So the government will automatically take the land. If government wants to acquire that land. So government needs land, only then it can actually undertake development activities. So that is the viewpoint of the government. That is actually right also, because if only there is actually land available, they can construct a hospital. What if nobody is actually giving land? If there is no land available in one particular locality, where will the hospitals come? So automatically, if somebody is falling sick, they will automatically say that there is no hospital, that is the people are dying. So there needs to be a hospital, but there is no land. So what will government do? Government will automatically try to acquire land, public land from some of the people, then actually construct a hospital so that all can actually depend on that hospital. That is the concept. So government needs to acquire land, and if these two statements are here, these two fundamental rights are here, which is actually trying to limit the role of the government, limit the power of the government. So if the government wants to acquire land, these two articles are coming as an obstacle. So that was the conflict, that was the problem which the government was actually facing, and that is why the central government, the state actually, here the state, the word state actually means the ruling machinery. The central government, we can just leave it independent. So the state actually, the central government actually comes with the that is 44 Amendment of 1978. And what they actually did was that they actually abolished the articles of 19 actually, and they ultimately they inserted the article 31 to the 300A. So whatever we are reading 300A right now, that is a person cannot be deprived of the right to property unless there is a proper law, unless there is a valid law. That is actually 31 initially. After 44A, it was shifted to 300A. That is that was the thing which actually happened in the 1978 amendment. With that particular notification, it automatically said please no more than fundamental right. So earlier, that was a fundamental right. And why? What is the point if that article is still there, right? It is earlier in the 31, then now it is actually in the 300. So what is the difference? That it is still in the constitution. However, that is no more a fundamental right, it is automatically given constitutional right. So that right to property is now a constitutional right, it is not anymore a fundamental right. So which means that I cannot go to a court saying that, okay, this is my property, this is my fundamental right. But I can go to a court saying that, okay, my property is being taken away by the government without my will, without any proper due diligence and all. So it is actually affecting my constitutional right, then I can go. But they won't no bigger reason the fundamental right that is actually taken away. So why this was actually done? For ease of acquisition and all. So if the government wants to acquire land, now it is more easy to why? Because it is no more fundamental right, it is only a constitutional right. Even though constitutional right is of high status, it has lesser statute compared to that of a fundamental right. So that is the thing which is actually happened. It is just there is one more word that is legal right, or that is I can go to a court. So that is a legal right or a constitutional right only. That is the status of Article 31, which is currently in Article 308. So we already mentioned what is 300. That is no person will be deprived of the property unless by an authority of law. That is unless there is a valid law. Then the why this particular property is actually being taken away is actually for the public welfare. So that is the status of the government. That is this everything is actually for the public welfare, public infrastructure, etc. However, we have to also mention about the fact that there are a lot of properties which are actually taken up by the government, acquired by the government, which are actually lying fallow. Those development activities for which the land is actually being acquired on, that development activities have not yet kicked in. So a lot of such events are actually happening in and around India. A lot of such events are actually happening in you can see such news in the newspaper. So make sure that whenever you come across the news in which the people are complaining of what we gave away the land, the government acquired the land, but they are not undertaking any activities here. So we are activating in which means that I lost my land, but there is no other infrastructure also. The land is simply lying there. It is now under government's protection. I cannot go to my land, no more my land, but there is no activities also happening. There is no road also happening. There is delays. There is actually problems also happening. So these kind of problems are also associated with the acquisition of land for the public purposes by the government. And last but not least, regarding the Supreme Court order, the Supreme Court actually said that it is actually not a fundamental right. Yes, of course, it is a 300 right, but it is a constitutional right, it is a legal right, and they use the word is a human right. So it is actually a fundamental human right for a person, for a private person to have property. So to take that property, to seize that property away from him or her without any due diligence is actually a crime. So there we would already mention the word human right. So this was the recent statement actually given to make sure that if at all the upcoming mains or the mains actually, whenever there is a question comes something relating the right to property law, make sure that you write the recent words and statements which was actually delivered by the Supreme Court. That actually gives added value of weightage to your answer. So Supreme Court also laid down the seven fundamental tests, constitutional tests before which the land has to be taken. These tests have to be completed. Only if you pass through this particular statement, this seventh statement, then you can actually say that the acquisition was actually properly, transparently done. So, what are the major seven statements through which seven criteria through which it actually was actually done? First thing is actually right to notice. That is, the person has to be informed rightly, right to be informed, because mentioned that. So, right, the person has to be informed properly about the state governments or the state intention that we are actually planning to, this acquire this particular land. So, government has to tell the person, the people actually affected beforehand, not just before the one day before the acquisition. Government has to tell them already much days before that we are actually planning to undertake this acquisition. One point. The second thing is that right to be heard. If the poor people affected they have some sort of objections, then also yes, definitely the people have to tell that just a second. Okay, which was the part you want me to explain slowly? Okay, I'll just open the chat box. I was not looking at the chat box, so that means I just saw the message here. Which is the portion actually I can just repeat it. No issues. Okay, so let's go with that particular decision. So, what is the third, the second criteria was that the right to be heard, but that is if a person or a group of people they have some sort of objections or complaints like that, the government should be willing to listen to their complaints. That is second. So the third thing is that right to have a recent decision. What is a recent decision? Which means that the decision should be taken with proper rationality. So that rationality factors should be there, which means that the decision should not be any arbitrary. Should be objective also because of which means that there should be fundamental criteria set. Then only that particular decision can be taken. The decision should not be arbitrary, which means that if I am the officer taking the decision, I just think in the morning that okay, I'll go with this particular decision without any due diligence, without any deliberations and all. I just simply say that this is what I like, I do like that. That is actually not objective. Objective decisions are, or we can say, rational decisions are when taken when there is actually proper set of rules and guidelines are there, and we are taking decisions based on that rules only. So that kind of recent decisions should be there. The fourth thing is that it is a duty for the state actually, duty of the government. What is the duty the government has to follow? The duty to acquire only for public purposes. So the government should not take the property away from a person for any other activities other than those of public purpose. For example, the government cannot take the land and they can construct one particular building or anything for a private person or an MLA or an MP like that. It should not be done. It should be for public purpose only. Fourth one. And the fifth one is actually right to pay compensation. Recently, because of lot of national highway development, state highway developments, etc., the government is actually taking away, acquiring lot of different lands, right? So they are actually giving a lot of good amount of money to the people also, depending on the market values. For example, if the land is actually going to a village area, or if the land is actually going the road, actually the planned road is actually going to the city area, definitely the rate will be different. So according to the rate difference, the government is actually giving money to those people. Then only the government is actually acquiring the land out. So that is a very good important thing. That is, there should be a fair compensation. But however, you have to also mention that there is a lot of issues which are actually happening in the compensation part, because a lot of people are actually complaining that it takes years and years to get that ultimate compensation. So till that time, they are actually deprived of that land, right? So if the road construction happens, if I have to give my land, if I have to, suppose I have a house in that land, I'm actually evicted from that land, right? So I'm just going out of that land. The government promises to give me compensation, but it takes years and years. There will be court proceedings, there will be a lot of court orders that will be there. So a lot of things will take at least 10, 15 years, it might take. So till that 15 years, what am I doing? I'm actually out of my house. How don't I might not have my own house in those 15 years time. So those kind of issues are actually happening regarding the compensation time. And then the right to extend the expedition process. That is, the process will be very smooth and all. It should be very transparent. It should be very fast order also. That is, there should not be any unnecessary delays also in the particular the process. That is, from the information to the private people to the acquisition, everything should be done in a smooth, fast manner. Last thing is that they right to conclusion. That is, this entire process should be concluded. That is, there should not be extensively, unnecessarily delayed and not. That they should have a proper full stop. So from the acquisition, after acquiring the road construction, compensation, everything is given. The matter is settled. So that matter has to be settled. The person should not be unnecessarily brought to the court proceedings and other things. There should be proper stop to the entire proceedings properly. So those are the things which the criteria the Supreme Court has mentioned regarding the acquisition of land. And these are all very extremely important. Why? Because it is actually a clash between the fundamental right and the directive principles. So fundamental right is actually that is the current constitutional right, that is the right to have a property, that is actually clashing with the directive principles. So what is the directive principles? So then you have to go to the part 4, that is the directive principles. So if when under topical, we'll definitely discuss more directive principles rule. So directive principles are the duties of the state, which the government has to do for the citizens, for the people. So when the government wants to do a lot of activities such as developmental activities, etc., it is actually in conflict with the fundamental right, the right to property, etc. So these clash is actually going on from ages, from the date of independence onwards. The clash between fundamental right and directive, which is actually has more weightage. These kind of things are actually happening, and ultimately it's on the bedrock of balance of the fundamental right and directive principles. The state is actually functioning. That is the ruling of the that is the finding of the Supreme Court. That is the bedrock of balance in which these three things are working. So that is the topic of right to property, which is actually seen in the news recently. And you have to also mention that this image was actually taken from the Yale University, and they are actually talking about the procedural justice. That is, whenever there is such a procedure is happening, for example, here in this case, land acquisition. So whenever there is a procedure happening, we have to understand that there should be proper things, proper elements to be taken care of. For example, one thing is actually the neutrality of the this particular process. That is, the decision should not be arbitrary. The decision should not be biased at all. So it should be very biased. It should be very unbiased. They should take a very objective decision. Second thing is the voice. So neutrality is one particular point. Second thing is actually voice. That is, everyone is actually should have a chance to express themselves. If there is any grievance, if there is any complaints and objections, they should be heard. That is the second thing. And the third thing is the trustworthiness. That is, the decision makers should convey convey each and every single rules to the people. So it should not be taken in very fast manner, should not be very quick and all. Properly information should be there, and it should be properly taken in a very smooth manner after gaining the trust of the people. And the fourth one is definitely the respect. That is, all treated with the respect and dignity. It should not be in a way such that the property is taken away violently. There should not be evicted away violently. Nothing like that. There should be proper respect in that. The give and take respect should be there. The people should also understand that. The people should be convinced that I am giving this property for the betterment of this community, this society, and I will also benefit because of that. That convincement should be there, and government should convince that before acquiring the property. So this is actually all about the procedural justice, and through which almost transparency will be there. And this particular philosophy you can actually use in GS4 paper. In GS4 paper, there are definitely there is a governance aspect is there. In GS2 also governance aspect is there. So whenever such question comes regarding how a public administration should be done, we can actually make sure that they mention this particular thing of procedural justice and the different aspects related to it.